Okay, so I am going to be showing you some Barry Harris chord voicings today. I actually did this video a few days ago, but the sound wasn't very loud, and so hopefully this will be a little better. I do only have one mic, this mic right here. A little ASMR for you. So my voice might be a little quiet, but I'll do my best to talk loud. So for those not familiar with Barry Harris, he's an incredible jazz teacher. He's got to be like 90 years old now, and he was a student of Bud Powell. He taught Pasquale Grasso, who's a phenomenal contemporary jazz guitarist, and he's taught hundreds of other people, and he's just fantastic. And a lot of people overlook Barry Harris because they think that he's just doing straight ahead or bebop or kind of conventional stuff. But I think that's a real misconception. I think Barry Harris is really, really experimental. So one of the first things you learn when you learn Barry Harris harmony, you learn the 8-note scale, commonly called the bebop scale. I've also heard it called the Barry Harris scale. He calls it the 6 diminished scale because you get it by playing a 6 diminished chord with a diminished chord from the leading tone. This is a C6 diminished with a C6 with a B diminished. So we end up with. Now usually when you first learn Barry Harris chord voicings, you learn something like, you learn the scale first. So, if you don't know the scale yet, just start there. You literally are just playing C, D, E, F, G, G sharp, A, B, and then to the top, C again. Okay, and then usually what you'll learn after this, you'll learn thirds. And you learn them, different inversions. You learn stuff like that. You can learn them in 2 hands. You can learn them as tenths. So that's cool. You learn triads. And the different inversions of the triads. Or I messed that one up. Yeah, so the triads are good. And that's really useful. I highly recommend all that. What we're going to be doing is actually major sevenths. So take a C major 7. And what we're going to do with this vanilla C major 7 voicing, we're going to take that E and put it up an octave. So we get. So this is going to be our first voicing. So C, G, B, E. Now, what I want you to do is just move each of these notes scale-wise. We're just going to move up the scale. So remember, the scale is. So we're going to move that bass line is going to go like that. The G is going to go. The B is going to go. And the E is going to go, and what you end up with is. Pretty cool, right? I'll play that again. Oops, okay. It's tricky, it's deceptively, I've played this hundreds of times, but it's just tricky. So here we go. And back down. So already, if this is all you watch of the video, you're fine. Like, you could just turn off this video right now and just practice that, and you're great. Because that's already some pretty awesome chords. But if you want to go even deeper, keep going. I would just say until you've gotten this under your fingers, and being able to do these kind of things. there's no real reason to go further until you've learned that. So I would say that's the first thing. The first thing to learn, get this under your fingers. Okay, now say you've learned this, let's go to the next step. The next step for me, I would do an inversion. Instead of C, G, B, E, I would play a C, B, E, G. So same exact notes, different inversion. Yeah, so that's with the inversion. Now the cool thing you can start doing is you'll notice because of this inversion that you'll actually have the same leading tone. Right now I have a leading tone, E. And so I'm playing A, G sharp, C, E. Now I have the same leading tone there that I would normally have with the first set of chords. So that's my leading tone, E, E, F, G, F, E. So I'm going E, 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 F, G, F, E, you know. And so that's with the first set of voicings, but now using the other inversions, we actually get So what's interesting about this, what's nice about it is you actually get two different sets of voicings that have the same leading tone. So what I've actually done, so the first set of voicings, leading tone E, that's the third. Leading tone fourth, F. Leading tone fifth, G, and so on. I'm just going through these. So this is the first set of chords that we practiced. Remember, this is our first set that we just went through. Now our second set of chords, using the same leading tones, we now have so very different set of chords with the same leading tones. So what I've done is I've actually written down, and I'll show this closer to the camera, but I've written down a left column with C, G, B, E. You know, D, G sharp, C, F. You know, so I've basically written these voicings down. And that's the left column. And then in the right column, I've done our second set of voicings with the same top note. Like, instead of. So you see, it's pretty cool because I have the same leading tones, but I now have two chords to choose from for each leading tone. So I'm going to show this now. Hopefully this comes through. Okay, so I hope that came through. But in any case, if you want to do the homework, kind of what I would recommend for the homework, first write down the chord voicings for our first set. And you can write those down on staff if you want to use musical notation, or you can write those down just as I have, where you just write C, G, B, E, D, G sharp, C, F, E, A, D, G, and so on. You know? And again, we're deriving all of these simply by moving up the scale, moving up that C6 diminished scale. So then, once you've written down the left column, go through and put the leading tones. You'll see I have leading tone in the farthest left here. It says leading tone. And so then you'll use you'll have leading tone. So this is leading tone third, leading tone fourth, leading tone fifth. Okay, so now that you have your first row of chords, do the same thing but with our second row of chords. Now remember how we got to these chords. We just took our first chord and we just moved the G up an octave. So it's just an inversion of the upper structure of the chord. Same notes. It's a C major 7. We're just doing a different inversion. So that's how we got to that. Compared to, you know, so same thing, we've just done a different inversion. Now what you do is you write down this second inversion, this new set of chords, but you write them with the same leading tone. So the first row should say leading tone third, and then it should have C, G, B, E on the left column. Then the right column should have A, G sharp, C, E. So your two columns are, and now your next one should have D, G sharp, C, F, and it should have B, A, D, F. So you see that you have two chords, one from the left column, one from the right column, but they each have the same high note, in this case the fourth, F. Oops, sorry. It's going to be... So this is from the left column and from the right column. And you do the same for the fifth. That's from the left column and from the right column. And then the next one, you from the left column, from the right column. So you have either or. So it's cool to be able to move between these two columns and you have the same top note, the same leading tone. Well, let's do it from the sixth. From the left, I have a G, C, F, A. From the right column, I have a E, D, G, A. So either or. Pretty cool. And now, from the seventh, I have a G sharp, D, G, B. So G sharp, D, G, B is pretty cool, pretty weird out there, like a G7 flat 9 kind of. And then we also have, this is ending on the 7th on B. We also have a F, E, G sharp, B. So either of those work. It's like you're doing a 2, 5, 1 in C. So, and then you go up to the 5, and the 5 you can be like, and then. It's weird stuff, weird substitutions there. Okay, so at this point, what you have is you have two columns of Barry Harris voicings, which are all basically just, the left column anyway is just going to be, I guess both columns really, are just going to be starting with a C major 7. Just depends on the inversion. So we're really just starting with a C major 7 chord, vanilla C major 7. Then in the left column, we've moved the E up an octave, right? Now in the right column, we've also moved the G up an octave. So that's all we have. The left column again is, right column is simply, so it's the same chords, but what we've done is by shifting the columns, we've made each row have the same top note. And so that gives us 2 different chords for every leading tone. Now the next thing I would do for homework here is just to go through these voicings you've written down and just scribble next to them what the chord is. And I've actually done this. C major 7, D minor 7 flat 5 or F minor 6. What's that there? C 6 9, G 13 flat 9, G 7 sus 4, G 7 flat 9, F sharp minor 7 flat 5 or A minor with a major 7th, B minor 7 flat 5 or D minor 6. So that's what you'll find is like this first chord is obviously a C major 7. We just have 1, 5, 7, 3. The next chord is a D minor 7 flat 5 or an F minor 6. We have the root, the flat 5, the 7th, and the 3rd of a D minor 7 flat 5. Or we have the 6th, the 3rd, the 5th, and the root of an F minor 6. You know, this next one is going to be a rootless C major 6 9. The next one will be a G 13 flat 9, rootless. It's the 7th, the 3rd, the 13th, and the flat 9. Now we have a G7 sus 4 with the root, the 4th, the 7th, and the 9th. So really a G9 sus 4. And so on. You know, a G flat 9, A minor major 7, D minor 6 or a B minor 7 flat 5, and back to our C major 7. Okay, so far what we've done is we've made these 2 rows of chords. Now, this is definitely enough to experiment with. And I'm going to give you 2 more things to experiment with, though. So armed with these chords, which I highly recommend you write them down. I mean, you don't have to, but it just helps to be able to see them visually and you've written them out. So the 2 homework assignments then after this would be, the first one is to reharmonize a song using these chords. And the second one would be to keep the same right hand voicings, but try changing up the left hand, the root note. So we're going to do both of those. First, we're going to do the reharmonization, and I'm going to do Green Dolphin Street. So for those who don't know the melody, it's in the key of C. It goes. So I would normally play it something like, you know. You know, that's, and then. You know, that kind of thing would be normally how I would play it, just kind of spelling out the chords. But here we're going to do reharmonizations. So first we have. So we have 4 chords we have to do. We have ba, 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 da, ba, 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 da, ba. And I guess we'll just put in the 5th chord too, the one we land on. So ba, which is the flat 7th of the C minor 7 right there. Now for the C minor 7, I'm going to, because I'm using these harmonies, these major harmonies, I'm going to treat that as if it were an E flat major key. And if it's the 5th degree of the E flat major, which is the relative major of C minor. So what I'm going to be playing are leading tone root, leading tone 7th, leading tone 5th, leading tone 3rd, and then leading tone 5th of E flat. Okay, so for leading tone root, we have 2 choices. We have either, we have, yeah, I guess that's, yeah, let's see. For our 5th, we have, leading tone root. Okay, perfect. So we have either a G7 sus 4 from our right column, which is a G, F, A, C, or we have an A minor major 7. Sorry, that was from our right column. Or we have an A minor major 7 from our left column. That's... So we're either going... or we're going... Both interesting choices, you know. So that, yeah, so starting with that, you know, it's pretty cool, pretty weird. So that's the G7 sus4 voicing from the right column, and then here's the A minor major 7. Weird. I think I'm going to go with the G7 sus4. That's what I did in the last video also, and it just sounded it was a little easier to make it work. But, you know, you could experiment with either. So, you know, I'm just taking the notes of the song and I'm just picking chords to reharmonize with based on their top note. Okay, so, and now I got to go. Okay, so for the 7th, let's see, for the 7th, we could do, that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. Let's do that one. So I can either do that, or I could do, so I'm either going from the G7 sus4, and I'm either going to a G7 flat 9, where basically, so my right hand is playing an F major triad. This is an F major triad. I'm either going to move down to a G major triad or to an E major triad. So I'm either going... So I'm doing that, or I'm going to go... Both of them are very cool and very dissonant. I think I'm going to do, I'm going to go from the G7 sus4 flat 9 from the right column. I'm going to go to the, to the G flat 9 from the left column there. So it's going. So now I need one from the 5th. Or I could go, I think I'll go here. Wait, where is it? Yeah, I'll go here. That's cool. So yeah, let's try it again. How weird is that? And then I'll go, from the 3rd, where do I go? Oh, from the 3rd I can go, from the 3rd, yeah, so it's going to be like, and then from the root, oh yeah, right. Yeah, that's cool, so that's, I was going to play that again. This is just, so we're going, okay, so, oops, okay, 1, 1 second. Okay, so. So weird. And then. To end on the second, I can do G sharp. So. Ba, ba. So. Yeah, how cool is that? Wait. No. So all I'm doing is picking chords from these Barry Harris voicings. You know, I'll just recap. So our melody is. So I'm just going. And then I was just going. And then same thing, up a third, up a minor third. Yeah, so that was using some of the chords from the other column. So basically, once you're armed with these two columns, and this is just for the key of C, but you could do this for all 12 keys, although really you start to just play it by ear. You know, once you get this under your fingers, you can start to transpose to the different keys. But really with these two columns, the goal of doing this is, so you just have that leading tone under your fingers. So that way if you play a fifth in the key of C, then you can either go, or you can go. So you have those two chord voicings under your fingertips. Or those are both available to you. So now for the second little bit of homework there, that's to try putting different roots under these. So, you know, here's our. So really in my right hand, all I'm practicing is. I'm just practicing playing these triads. So I've been playing these with the C in the bass. But try them with an A in the bass. Really cool chords. Our first chord is A, G, B, E. So it's basically the root, the 7th, the 9th, and the 5th. So it's like an A minor 9, or you could even use it for an A9 if you're just skipping the 3rd, or an A sus4, or, you know, but it's cool. Now when we move up, we get a very dissonant, very interesting chord that consists of B, G sharp, C, and F. Let's keep going. Ooh, what a pretty C major voicing. C6-9 with just the 1, the 6, the 9, and the 5. That's like a D7 sharp 11. It's basically an E major triad in the right hand over a D in the bass. It's like a D13 with a sharp 11. How cool is that? How cool is that? So yeah, so basically we're using the same right hand voicing. Oops. And instead of using the C, instead of that C, we're using A. Oops. Compared to normally, this would be, which is still cool. That's our original voicings we did. Our C major 7. Cool, but with our new bass note, which is now a minor 3rd lower, you know, we end up with. Okay, so let's just do a quick recap. What did we cover? Okay, the Barry Harris scale, also known as the bebop scale, in the key of C, what Barry Harris calls the major 6 diminished scale. It's made up of a C major 6 with a B diminished chord. You combine them together, you get. Then we covered what you would normally do to practice it. You just play it up and down, and you can also play it contrary-wise. And know, you can do this in all 12 keys, of course. Normally, when you first start learning it, you learn it in major thirds, or you do the inversions. You can do it in 2 hands. That's at the interval of a tenth. Once you learn that, you can learn the major sixths. But then, this is where I really began, because I figured that most of the Barry Harris stuff, that's what you first learn, but then you start to get into the 7th chords. It gets really cool. So then I thought, okay, let's start with the C major 7, and we just move that up. You know, but to make it a little less mashed together into one octave, sure, you can practice that too, but I was actually just moving that major third up an octave. And this is where we get our whole left column of chords here. So write these down. And that's the whole left column of chords. Then we just move that G up an octave. And this becomes our right column of chords. Oops. Once you have this, as I've shown, you just have a left column and right column of chords. Then what you do is you pick a song to reharmonize, and you just start picking chords. And the only rule is you want to just put the top note of the chord as the melody note. Now, you can also practice doing these chords below the melody note. There's nothing wrong with adding a melody note on top of these chords. That's also perfectly acceptable. It's just more of a practice to learn these chords so that when you're playing a song and you're playing, you know, let's say you're playing Giant Steps, and Giant Steps starts on an F sharp in the key of B. So, in the key of B, starts in the F sharp. Now you know that you can either play that's one Barry Harris voicing, or that's the other Barry Harris voicing. And again, these are just the voicings from these 2 columns. And the way I can do it so quickly is because I've learned them from the leading tone. Like that's why, as I was pointing out, when I write down the 2 columns, each row has the same leading tone. So that, you know, so anyway, I just wanted to kind of recap that just to go over what we've already learned. So once you are then practicing reharmonizing songs using these chords, you can also experiment with, try changing up the root. You know, keep that same practice in the right hand of going, you know, that's the practice in the right hand, and normally with C in the bass, it's, but now with A in the bass, it's, and try something else. Try it with F in the bass, or, you know, well, that's pretty dissonant. It's not really going to work, but maybe with D in the bass. That works. I mean, it's weird, sure, but I'm just saying you can experiment with it. Try different bass notes, you know, both inversions. So try different things. You know, I was doing it with the left column inversions. Try it with the right column inversions. With this, with those. Try that with an A in the bass. Pretty dissonant, you know, it doesn't work great. The other inversion better, but it's really up to you, you know, experiment with it. So all right, that concludes our lesson for the day. I hope that this audio turned out better than the last one. I know that probably the piano is going to be a lot louder than my voice. That's why I've been kind of trying to speak up and to speak into the mic here. But, you know, it's a work in progress. Hopefully soon I'll bring another microphone over for my voice, and that way I'll have a separate mic and I can adjust the levels and so on with the piano. But at least for now, I mean, isn't this cool stuff? I mean, come on, these chord voicings, right? Or so cool, right? All right, that's the lesson. Thanks for watching.